now that you've seen it, I'm sure you're anxious to hear it, so we'll get to it. The V-Synth incorporates Roland's most powerful technologies: variphrase, analog modeling, sampling, and introducing a new Cosm filter section, which we'll get to in a minute. Now, the V-Synth has immense real-time controls. One of the most amazing is the time trip pad. Now, the time trip pad allows you to move through a waveform forward, backward, or freeze it at any point, like this. Forward, backward, or freeze it. Now, in addition to the time trip pad, you have an assignable D-beam controller. Now, the time trip pad can also be used to control the V-Synth's other parameters, so you can create more traditional sounding synthesizer effects. Now here we have just a standard drum loop. Now using variphrase, we can play it high, play it low, and it still retains its original tempo. Now, in the Cosm filter section, Roland introduces a new filter called the sideband filter. Now this allows you to basically pitch inharmonic sounds. So we'll take this drum loop, add in the sideband filter, so now we can make rhythmic pads. Now, the V-Synth is also an incredible sound design tool. Here we have a standard car crash effect. Now we're going to add the sideband filter we just heard, and on the second Cosm filter, we're going to add a new distortion model. Distortion amp model, actually. So we'll listen to the sound again. Now using the time trip pad, we're going to step back through the waveform. Now we're going to mess with it. All that from this. Now the V-Synth also does wonders for vocals. Here's a standard one-shot vocal sample.
Now I realize.
Now we can actually, using variphrase, perform it.
Now I realize. Now I realize. Now I realize.
Very fun. Add a few minor modifications, you can actually make it flow.
Now I realize. Now I realize. Now I realize. Now I realize.
So now I'm going to take all these parts and put them together in a performance. Now everything you're going to hear came from the V-Synth.
Now I realize. 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 eyes.
And there you have the new Roland V-Synth.
Okay, let's take a look at the V-Synth screen. This is what you get on the touch screen. And it's kind of put together with, I'd call, building blocks. Okay, so you have your oscillators, your modulator section, your filter sections, your envelope section or amplifier section, and your effects blocks. And notice they're like little arrows pointing, showing you the signal path. It's going into here, then coming out of here, going into here, so on and so on. So kind of like a map showing you what's actually happening. Now, let's take a look at the oscillator section itself. Press oscillator. There are three types of oscillators. You have analog modeled waveforms, PCM samples, both wave and AIFF that you can load in, and external input from the audio input that you can process right away. Now, this particular patch called Mad Orchestra is using a single PCM sample. Take a listen. Kind of bizarre sounding, but it's based around a single piano riff. That's really where the sound came from. But with the time knob, you can slow it down and get the sound within the sound. Can you say horror movie soundtrack? Yeah, you'll be hearing this a lot. Let's move on to the next section, which is the COSM area. COSM stands for Composite Object Sound Modeling. Anybody familiar with COSM technology? All Roland employees, keep your hands down. I know you all know about it. That's what we use in V-drums, V-studios, V-guitar processors. But now it's available in a keyboard for the first time. It's going to add a wide variety of filters and amplifier tonalities and models that you're going to go through. Now, this one is called COSM Beat. Just a regular drum beat. What I'll do is I'll go in and I'll choose the speaker model. So just like sending it through a different speaker cabinet. And as I change the cabinet, slightly different tonality. And so on. This filter is called a sideband filter. It's a brand new filter. Roland put this in this keyboard and this keyboard only right now. What sideband filter does is adds pitch to a non-pitched sound by getting rid of inharmonic frequencies and leaving only harmonic frequencies. So check this one out. It is a conga loop. Now I'll take out the inharmonic frequencies and leave pitch. And now it's almost like a vocoder. And where'd it come from? So where's your imagination going to take you when you put something inside this thing, right? Okay, now take a look at the upper right-hand side of the screen. You have the structure section. Anybody familiar with the D50 from Roland? We sold like one or two of those, you know, maybe back in the 80s or 90s, right around there. Okay, well, that's where structures were first invented. This is probably the closest relative to a D50, except feed it a few steroids, okay? But anyways, all of those building blocks, you can turn on and off and change their path or route the signal path in different directions or different ways with the structure section. And you can turn them on and off in real time. So Igor's going to play an example and switch through some of the structures. He's on structure 3 right now. See how it affects the sound because it's going through the ring modulator first now. You can turn it back and turn on and off individual elements of that sound, like just the COSM or just the oscillator or so on and so on. Okay. The V-Synth also has a full-blown effects unit with reverb, chorus, and 41 insert effects. So I'll go press effect, go to the routing screen. Here's your regular routing screen like most synthesizers. Press MFX, press list, and here are your 41 different insert effects that you can assign to internal sounds or even the external stuff coming through the audio input. Now, you have the sound, you've tweaked it a little bit. You might want to modify it in real time. Like most synthesizers today, the V-Synth has an arpeggiator with preset patterns as well as user customizable patterns. It also has 2 D-beams that you can put your hands over like you saw Igor doing with assignable targets. But the real cool thing is the left-hand side, that thing he was playing with before called the time trip pad. What that is a touch-sensitive control surface that lets you freeze a waveform or change its direction in real time. Check this out. You go backwards now? Okay. And and freeze. So freezing a looped waveform and making something else completely crazy out of it. Okay. Now, once you've done that, you've tweaked it in real time. You can resample that information and make a waveform out of that you can now start your whole synth sound shaping process all over again. So I have a sound that's called Heavy Drone. I can resample that, make a waveform out of that, and take that back and start my whole sound shaping process all over again. It's real easy to do. All I do is press mode, press sample, sampling, resample, press start. Press stop, OK, and edit to see the sample. You can hear it back. That becomes a new waveform to do more stuff with. So the possibilities are endless. Take it to the next level. You have a USB connector. So connect the V-Synth to your computer. The V-Synth shows up as a drive icon on your desktop. Open it up, and you have all the sounds that are inside your V-Synth. So you can drag them onto your desktop. Open them up in any of your audio editing. You're getting it, right? Open it up in Peak or SoundForge or Logic or Pro Tools, whatever. Do some more stuff and bring it right back in, and then tweak it some more. Okay? Or you can use the USB connector as your MIDI interface. If you have like a laptop, you just connect one cable between the two, and you're on your way. Say you go to the gig and you don't have your computer connected. Maybe you don't. There's a PC card slot as well. How many people have bought a keyboard or something like that that has removable media, and then when you finally get one, they're obsolete, you can't buy them anymore, right? Well, the PC card will take an IBM micro drive, compact flash, smart media, or memory stick with adapters. So you can have quite a choice of what you want to put in there to save your media to. The V-Synth also has a V-Link button. Anybody know what V-Link is? This is so you can trigger video clips from the keyboard and control them in real time, control their color, their speed, their direction, and playback. If you use it with Edirol's DV7 video workstation. We have V-Link presentations going on throughout the NAMM show. You can see that as well.